Today I was off to Hintertux, and of course, like every good ski day, the most important thing you can do is have a really consistent and good breakfast. But there was no time to be messing around. I have been waiting to come to this ski resort for as long as I can remember. I don't know what it is about Hintertux, but there's something very special about this resort. I think it might be the fact that it seems to be open 365 days a year, when conditions allow. It's also just this awesome glacier ski resort that's tucked right in the back of a valley, and it just seems so remote and so far removed from everything that I have been used to or ever known. The drive from Stamm to Hintertux was going to be about 45 minutes, but the best part was that the snowstorm had cleared from the night before. It was bluebird conditions. There were clouds in the sky, however. It was sunny, there was a ton of fresh snow, and I knew that the elevation difference between Stamm and the Hintertux base, which is probably a good 1,000 meters, meant that the snow that had been falling down in the valley towns was an indicator that the snow up at the top of the glacier was going to be exceptional. The drive, once you get up past Mayrhofen, becomes a steady incline all the way up, and there are a number of small towns that you pass by. A lot of these are the small towns that connect to the other parts of the Mayrhofen ski resort. I think before it connected and became Mayrhofen, it was actually a number of smaller resorts that weren't connected all under one pass. Hence why you've got these gondolas that rise out of these small Austrian towns. Arriving at the base of Hintertux, I could tell that this resort was going to be incredible and today was going to be a special day. You can't time these things, especially with large international trips. You just have to take the weather and hope that it does line up. For me, the fact that I'm getting sunny conditions, 30 to 40 centimeters of fresh snow, and I'm at a bucket list ski resort is one of those pinch yourself moments. I parked the car and wandered through the absolutely tiny town of Hintertux over to the ticket counter, collected my ski pass, and then headed over to the trail map before jumping on the Glacier Bus. What's unique about Hintertux is that they've got Glacier Bus 1, 2, and 3, and to get from the bottom all the way to the top is quite a journey. But it also means you're going 1,750 meters in vertical, which is no small feat. I had decided to go all the way to the top, spend my morning or even half of the day exploring the resort, and then as the day progressed, make my way down to the base. The first gondola takes you up to 2,100 meters. This is the center of the main area. There are multiple lifts going off in every direction, and you can get onto some of the piste terrain from the Tuxerjoch. But I was on a mission to get as high as I possibly could. So I jumped over to the Glacier Bus number 2 and rode up to 2,660 meters, where you'll find numerous restaurants and a good amount of shops. If you need to rent your skis or anything, you can actually pick it up here and then continue on. Still on my mission, I jumped on Glacier Bus number 3. And within maybe about 30 minutes or 40 minutes from when I first arrived at the car park, I was now at 3,250 meters. While I was also at 3,440 meters at Solden, there's just something special about being in this mountain environment, being where there are glaciers hidden below snow. Also being at a point where you're standing in Austria, but you can see Italy, Switzerland, and Germany. The air up here is better. Overall, it's just a special place to be. As soon as I came out of the station, I could have walked up to the viewing platform, but I wanted to get some fresh snow. So I headed off down towards the Ulpera T-bar, but also the Gefrorene von T-bars. The trail map makes it look like there isn't very much up here, but once you're experiencing it, it's something completely different. The edges of the piste were completely untouched. It's a lot of fun to just be jumping and getting fresh turns on the side of the piste. The vertical here also has a great pitch. There are a whole bunch of intermediate runs. For my first run, I went down and then jumped onto the Gefrorene von T-bar and then headed back up for my first official powder run of the day. The terrain in between the two T-bars and to the right-hand side of the T-bar was completely untouched, so I was able to get fresh turns. No one was in it. It's very uncommon, as I think everyone in Europe just wants to stay on the piste, which I'm perfectly fine with. In these resorts, off-piste actually means off-piste, even if it's still within the resort boundaries. For terrain that is just in between the lifts and in between the piste, it's pretty safe because you can easily just tuck back into the side. It's the more technical canyons between chairlifts and runs that are the risky part. I did a few laps here and then headed back down and connected down the number 3 piste to get back on the Glacier Bus and head up to the top. This is where I would head up to the viewing platform and enjoy the views, record a few videos, and then make my way over to the Alpera, which is a dual set of T-bars that heads up the other side.
We are up here at the top of the Hintertux Glacier, and it is 3,250 meters above sea level. And I thought it would be the perfect time to speak about today's video sponsor, who is Arctic Eco Snow. They are a thermal company. They have been keeping me warm all throughout this trip. Today I've got on a blue set, and I've got blue, I've got black. I matched them up. They are incredible thermals. It's -8 up here at the moment, but it feels like -15. I wouldn't know because I've got these great thermals on. And behind me, you can see we've just got incredible views of the Alps. But Arctic Eco Snow started as a small company in Australia, husband and wife duo. They now live in the French Alps and are supporting all the Europeans, keeping them warm. But if you want to know more, you want to grab yourself a set, check out the link in the description.
Once you get to the top of the Gefrorene Wand, you can look straight out to the Alpera, which is the highest peak at Hintertux at 3,476 meters. This peak towers over the whole region. There are 2 T-bars that connect you up to 3,200 meters. This is also where they build the terrain park, which gets up and running early and late in the season. They have competitions here throughout the year. After a few laps, a few fresh turns, this is just an incredible resort. I then connected down the 11A piste to the Larmstanger lift, which is a hooded quad or 6-pack that takes you back up to 3,220 meters. At that point, I was able to connect down and get into some of these gullies, get some fresh turns, and take on a bit more of this technical terrain. I then made my way back down to the mid-station and decided that it was time to stop for a bit of morning tea and then continue on my journey. After exploring the Gefroren side of the resort, I decided to head over to the Cassera 2 and the Cassera Y. They are 2 T-bars on the right-hand side of the trail map. Here you'll find a lot of beginner terrain and also some intermediate terrain. But if you hang on the far side of the canyon, you can take the number 13 piste, which is actually the start of the freeride terrain. This huge canyon takes you all the way down underneath the Larmstanger, with towering peaks on either side. The route connects you back down, and this freeride terrain is newer. Well, it's always been there, but they put a new lift in, so it's a lot more popular now. I made my way all the way down through the valley, which was really enjoyable because the snow was completely untouched within this zone. There were obviously some people who had been through before me, but it was still fun to find some fresh tracks. Once I went down to the bottom, I was able to connect to the Larmstanger 1 lift, which is the new lift, and that took me all the way up to mid-mountain again. At the top, I was able to connect down to the number 3 trail and ride back down to the Tuxer Furnahouse base area, which is at 2,660 meters. This is essentially the glacier base area. From here, I jumped back on the Glacier Bus 3 and was back at the summit in a matter of minutes. I jumped down the center of the number 8A run, heading towards the T-bar, then took the T-bar to the top. I decided to just take some really nice turns all the way back down to the Tuxer Furnahouse base area. There's something really enjoyable about just turning in snow when it's light and fluffy, even just on the side of a piste. A lot of the Europeans don't actually go off the piste, and this is at 2:30 in the afternoon, and you can still just find fresh turns as you slowly meander your way down. From here, I continued further down and went back into the freeride terrain again. This is where I jumped on the number 2 piste and found my way all the way back down to the Larmstang lift again.
Huh. So interesting. I just caught an edge and it's actually the glacier. It's not a rock. This is just straight up ice, which is very interesting.
During this descent, I came across a huge avalanche debris field and didn't realize it until I was on the side. So I carefully made my way safely down to the bottom, watching where I was going and keeping aware of my surroundings. Once I got onto the Larmstang lift and was riding up, I was actually able to see the full extent of the slide that had happened. I could also see from the chairlift that there were a number of tracks that went into it. Unfortunately, I did find out days later that someone had passed away from an avalanche that happened at Hintertux on that day. It's always important to know exactly where you're riding. The person who passed away was not inside the resort bounds. They were outside on the actual off-piste terrain. Once I got to the top of the Lamstang, I was able to take the number 3 again, get back on the Glacier Bus number 3, and from the top here, it was now time to make my way back. I decided to do the full extent of a top-to-bottom run that is available at Hintertux. Sadly, you can't do a complete top-to-bottom run. You need to go from 3,250 meters all the way down to about 2,000 meters, so it's about a 1,250 meter descent. This is a mix of intermediate to beginner to advanced terrain, if you choose, and it takes quite a while to do this run. It is a leg burner, and in the afternoon, there are consistently moguls, which I personally find a lot of fun on a snowboard. Once you get down to the base area, you have to jump on a 6-person chairlift, which is the Sommerberg, a connector lift. This is a glacier, so you can't exactly decide where the mountains carve their way. The connector lift takes you back to the Sommerberg Alm area, which is at 2,000 meters. From here, you could jump on the 1A piste, which connects you straight back down to the village. Sadly, it was not open on my visit, so I had to jump on the Tuxejoch quad, which took me from 2,100 meters up to 2,460 meters. You can continue this journey on the number 17 piste, which is a beginner piste, though there is a pretty steep section. Once you get around to the Tuxejoch house, you can tuck the corner and take the number 1 piste. This connects you around the back of this part of the resort, takes you through a massive canyon, and then you slowly wind your way down through the mountains, then through the forest, until you are able to connect all the way back down to the Hintertux village at 1,500 meters. This is a 1,750 meter descent when you go from 3,250 meters all the way down to 1,500 meters. It's not a pure descent because you do have to jump on the Sommerberg lift and then jump on the Tuxejoch, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. Once I got back down to Hintertux village, it was time to have a quick celebratory aperol and look back at this incredible base area of the resort. You can see some part of the resort from the village, but the majority of it is hidden. You have to take the lifts to see it. Then it was time to do a bit of quick drone flying in the village. I obviously wanted to be safe, so I hiked out by the river, and then it was time to make my way back to Stum, where my accommodation is. The drive back was just as enjoyable as driving up. My first day at Hintertux absolutely blew my mind. I want to say thanks to the team at the Hintertux Glacier for hooking me up with the lift ticket. It's a 2-day lift ticket, so this is just my first day. Tomorrow is going to be another day of riding, and while there's no more fresh snow in the forecast, I think I'm going to get back on my skis and explore Hintertux on skis rather than on a snowboard.